What do you think would happen if we got designs from more than 10 different artists, then got another artist on top of that to fuse all of those different designs together into one piece? I see two possibilities. One is it turns into a ridiculous, messy, mashed up, mangled piece of art. Or, on the other hand, it could turn into the most epic MEGA-MEGAZORD that has ever been created. I'm hoping the latter's the case, but either way, we're gonna find out what happens today, because that's today's video. As I do every month on PopCross Studios, I got a bunch of my subscribers to send in designs based off of a monthly prompt. And this month, I had everybody send in their design for some kind of robot or mech creation that had at least two forms. One could be anything they want, and the other had to be a limb or weapon or some kind of body part that we could take and turn into our crazy Voltron Megazord Transformer robot thing. There were a crazy amount of awesome submissions sent in. I'm gonna show off a bunch of them because I could only fit about 11 or 12 or so in the actual drawing. But as always, it was so cool to see everything sent in. So hopefully you're just as excited as I am to see how this crazy, ridiculous, awesome robot turns out. And if you want to get me to start rolling right away, hit the like button. That's gonna be my start button. Once you hit the like button, I'm gonna start go. Oh, you hit it. All right, let's go, everybody. Now, to start out this video, I guess I'm gonna kind of feel like I'm repeating myself a bit from the Mortal Kombat Fusions episode, because this video and that video have a lot of similarities, but I had to make sure that the pose of the character was going to be able to show off all of the different design elements. I want it to look like a cool unified piece and poster, but I also gotta make sure that all of the awesome designs that were submitted that I selected for this video were gonna get shown off. You can get a sneak peek of them on the side of all the ones that I've picked that I'm going to work into this. Some of them I'm going to use parts, some of them I'm going to use the full thing. But regardless, I want to make sure all of them get their time to shine in the piece. I originally thought I was only going to get in about 7 different body parts, but I ended up working it out and using pieces from 12 different artists. But without further ado, let's get into the detailed rendering of our first limb with the submission from Sausage Rock. Now, as you can see, Sausage Rock sent in this really cool transformer that turns into the leg of our big, awesome mech character. And it's a pretty simple description that Sausage Rock sent in, and it goes, "This is my Transformers original character, Roadblaze. I decided that maybe, since he is a land vehicle, it would be fitting if he was the leg of a combiner." Simple idea and great execution. I really love the design on this piece. You can tell instantly that the leg and the robot are two versions of the same character, not just from the colors, but you can see where a bunch of the different design elements have gone from one version of the character to the next. And in my version of it, one thing that I ended up adding is just a bit of an upper leg part to it as well. I considered using someone else's upper leg from their leg design to just add another person in, but I figured in this pose it would be so obscured that it wouldn't really make sense to just throw in a really tiny piece of someone else's, so I just added a bit more design to what you'd already sent in. It was a super cool limb, Sausage Rock, thanks for sending it, and now let's move on to the next leg, which was designed by Giant Zilla. Now, there's not tons of description for Giant Zillas either, but basically this character is an electric wolf/dog mech with a spear for a tail, and I really like how this felt kind of like a classic Voltron limb, being a wolf-dog kind of character, but also felt like it had enough originality to be its own thing. I really, really liked it, and I had a surprisingly hard time figuring out the proportions and perspective on the lower part of the face foot, if you know what I mean, right? I also like the coloring on it, and this is where I'm a little bit concerned about the design of the overall piece, is how all of the different colors are going to mesh together, because the last time I mixed a bunch of characters like this in the Mortal Kombat episode, I was changing the colors in the coloring stage to make the pieces all fit together. In this one, I wanted to use everyone's original colors. But I mean, Voltron is a whole bunch of different colored limbs, and other mechs are too, so hopefully it works out. I'm liking how it's all going so far. Thanks for the submission, Giant Zilla. It's looking super cool in the piece, and now let's move on to Elder Nightwolf. Now, Elder Nightwolf, I hope you don't feel cheated by what I did with your character, but I used just the waist from your design. There was a lot of heavy competition for the torso, so I decided to use part of your design and part of Snoolax's design, who we'll see in the next bit. But anyway, here's the description that Elder Nightwolf sent in for this character. This is Mech Series Sky Hunter, model number 12-28, aka Horus. Pilot Auto was chosen with 4 others to pilot these large mechanical warriors to defend the world from evil. My inspiration came from Egyptian mythology and the Avenger god Horus. His model number refers to December 28th, which is Horus's day. And I loved getting to work in a bit of Egyptian mythology. I really, really love Egyptian mythology. It was such a cool design. I'm sorry I only used half of it, but I hope you like how I utilized it in this piece. Let's take a look at how this is all coming together so far. Now before we move on to the next part of the piece, going into the torso and arms, I want to just rapid fire show off a whole bunch of the awesome designs because there was a crazy amount of cool stuff sent in, as I've probably said like 10 times. And what was interesting was it seemed like people had to spend more time designing their characters for this round because I made this prompt so you had to draw the character in 2 different forms. It was kind of a good way to make sure that people who were submitting were people that really, really wanted to submit. Gonna keep that in mind going forward. But anyway, let's move on to the next part of the drawing. Now, Snoolax had one of the standout designs to me from this whole round of submissions. I really love it, not just because it's a dragon, and I obviously really, really love dragons. We've actually got a few mecha dragons built into this video, but the coloring is so nice. It's a great gold and blue blend, and the level of detail is a really nice halfway point between cartoon-ish and comic book-y. I really love the blue streaks you've got all over the character, both in the dragon mode and the torso mode, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I haven't read out your description. So Snoolax said this about the character. For this month's theme, I wanted to draw a mecha dragon with the transformer part being he turns into a torso. I like how the dragon turned out, but I really like how the torso turned out. And you are absolutely right to like how it turned out. It was so cool. It was definitely more time consuming for me to redraw than some other parts of it because there's a lot of complicated shapes that I have to shift slightly in a 3D space and think about how you would want them rendered in a different kind of pose. It was a bit of a challenge, but you know, in a fun way, and I do love how it turned out, and it's a great base middle point for our character. Great work, and now let's move on to one of the arms with Geno V. Gemert. Now, Geno V. Gemert, or Gemert, sorry if I'm saying it wrong either way, sent in Dragonius, an ancient dragon robot created by Merlin. He was created as a part of other great robots to combine and become one big Megazord. I literally spent hours on this piece trying to get everything right, and I really like how it turned out, so I hope you will consider mine. And consider it, I obviously did because I chose it, and I am super glad that I did. My favorite part of this whole piece was how you turned the dragon's wings into the shoulder armor. I thought that was really cool. I also really like how the tail kind of swirls around the bicep, kind of separates some of the details. It's nice. It's got a subtle but really cool color palette. Just overall super cool looking, and by now you've probably noticed that I didn't draw the hand on the character. That's nothing against the design of the hand on your version, but I had something specific in mind for what I wanted to do with the hand on this one, and that is a submission from New Jork, who we can move on to now. Thanks for the submission, Geno. Now, I don't know if there's a PopCross Studios record for the most times in a row that someone has been put in the heavy contenders folder in a redraw to almost get picked and just miss getting into the final 8 or 10 or whatever, but if there is, New Jork has probably gotten it because you've sent in so many incredible designs that for some reason I just haven't drawn any of them yet, but I'm so glad that this is the first one I'm going with because this is so cool. And let me read the description because New Jork went above and beyond. This is my submission for this month's theme. It is All Might as a robot transformer. I drew him in different levels of complexity so you can decide which one fits your style best. So what does he transform into, you ask? Well, he transforms into a giant right fist to throw the ultimate Detroit smash. I also did that in a quick, simpler style and drew in some poses so you know how it fits. So New Jork sent in a whole bunch of different versions of this same fist. It was just so cool. I don't even know if the most detailed one, which is the one I picked, is the best for this final piece, because it'll mean that the hand is more detailed than a lot of the bigger parts of the character, but I felt like I had to go with it. You put in so much work, it looked so cool, and I think it's gonna look pretty cool holding on to this next weapon. So great submission, and let's move on to the next piece of the puzzle. Now the next part is one of the two weapons this character is going to be holding, submitted by Crazy Cat Kid, and it's obviously a big cool scythe. The character is called K_457B, and it is a character that transforms into a scythe, as mentioned. The sharp part of the scythe can fire off and reel back in to grab stuff. And I thought it was so cool looking. It's nice and simple, but I thought it would also fit nicely in the hand of this character in New Jork's All Might fist. And this ends up being one of my favorite combinations in the whole video, how these two pieces fit together really nicely. Also, I should point out that this is not a good way to draw a character in general, rendering out specific body parts one by one, but from a video perspective, I thought it would be more fun and interesting doing it this way, so I end up erasing out some parts of this so it actually fits properly in the fist, and I'm rendering the shadows on it as if it's in the character's hand. Now that we've gone through a bunch more parts, let's take another look at how this is all coming together. Before we move on to more drawing, I want to show off another whole bunch of the awesome submissions, and something that was kind of interesting that I probably should have expected is that about 65% of the submissions were for arms. So many people submitted designs that turned into arms, so that was definitely the category with the most competition. But it also meant I had so much cool stuff to choose from. Anyway, speaking of arms, let's get into the next one. Next up, we've got one of what was actually a few triple changers submitted, but of course this one changes into an Autobot, a helicopter, and an arm for our big awesome mech. Here's the description from Bendo the Ink Devil. As the Autobot recon officer and data analyzer, activating his visor to do so, Skycutter joined the Autobots after a near-death experience while saving Optimus Prime from a Decepticon ambush. However, he's proven not only to be very smart and precise, he's also a skilled warrior, being capable of handling a hard fight on his own for a long time thanks to his special weapon, a rotor blade. Skycutter helps the Autobots by organizing strategies and plans, which most of the time are executed successfully. And I thought this was a really cool design. You can see I kind of messed up the planning for this arm because you show the design of the back side of the arm, and the way I planned the drawing had to do the front side of the arm, so I just tried to translate all those design elements from the back of the arm onto the front. I hope you think I did it justice. Now, Agent Perrypuss sent in one of the most elaborately designed and meticulously thought out characters, and the description is way too long for me to read the whole thing, but I'll do the abstract at least. It's written as if it's a redacted legal document or government document or something like that. So here's the description. The identification of MAR-33 is that of an advanced device with the abilities that rival all defense and weapon systems in the world. The MAR-33 device was first discovered in fall of 1984, where an unidentified object was said to have fallen in Virginia near the Appalachian Mountains. Upon investigation of the site, a large metallic object was seen sticking out of the ground, streaked with large burn marks. This object was later named MAR-33-2. After a few hours, the object started to move. Parts of the hull started to shift with loud clanking and whirring. After the shifting stopped, what it had become was something never seen before. This was a next level design and description, so cool. Let's take a look at how this whole side of the robot has turned out with these added bits to it. Now we're getting down to the end here, about to do the head and some final touch-up bits in the background, but I've got to show a bunch more of the awesome submissions, and hey, if anybody else wants to make their own awesome mech design, there's a lot of great creative fuel in the PopCross Community Discord, which is linked in the description. If you want to build your own big awesome MEGA-MEGAZORD thing out of other people's bits, just make sure to send it to the community and show people what you made. But anyway, let's get on to the head. Now there was also some pretty stiff competition for the head, but at the end of the day, I ended up going with Scarlet's because I liked adding a little bit of samurai flavor in there, and I, obviously really liked the design. So here's what Scarlet had to say about it. So I just want to say you gave me a true challenge. At first I was like, oh dear, how and what will I do? Thought for 2 days straight, and then I give you this. Japanese dragon that turns into a samurai head. Don't really have a story, only that Japan had the best samurai warriors in their time, and their culture is awesome. I totally agree, and I liked how it looked like a good armored kind of head for this big, crazy warrior mech that we're designing. It was a little bit tricky drawing the face at the angle that I drew it at, because it's kind of similar to an Iron Man face, where it's a bit flat but also a little bit rounded. Caused me a bit of problems, but I think I ended up finding a pose that I liked for it. Now there were a few people that sent in parts for the character that weren't arms or legs or torsos or weapons, and a few of those I wanted to make sure to add in even if I couldn't get the full thing, such as William Ardall's Incinerator, who was the god of fire, but he was defeated by the god of water. But his spirit survived and possessed a secret government robot. And with his new body, the god of fire had a chance to take revenge on the god of water. And he turns into a back and spine that can be used as a jetpack. So obviously, a bunch of the character wouldn't be able to be seen at this pose, but I thought it would be kind of cool to have the jetpack and other pipes kind of sticking out from behind the character to show that our big awesome mech character can fly. I thought that was a great addition to the general, epicness of this character. Even if I couldn't show off all of your design elements redrawn in my style, it was a great submission. Thanks for sending it in. And the final addition for our big awesome mech comes to us from Zatenko, who designed some extra armor for the character. And here's the description. Here is my mecha V-KO, or the Fox Virus. It's a mecha that relies mostly on high-speed attacks, while also having a decent amount of defense with its ability to project force fields. In a combined mecha, it takes the shape of back armor and pauldrons. It seems useless at first glance until you realize that this simple addition creates energy shields from the back as well as the heads and arms. The description is longer and it's really cool. I don't have time to read the whole thing out, but it was a really nice addition. I don't put the shoulder armor on both sides because we already had the dragon wing shoulder armor on the other side, but I thought this was a cool addition, and of course, lore-wise, giving our mecha the addition of having extra shields to go across the body and help protect it was a really nice final touch to make this the ultimate MEGA-MEGAZORD Voltron Transformer Beast. Now for the background, I had to think a little bit about where this character would be. I was thinking, is this actually a Transformers Combiner, or a Voltron mech, or a Megazord? And really it has to kind of be a mix of all of those things, because some people's descriptions said their characters were Transformers, some of them were piloted mechs. So at the end of the day I was like, okay, well, I really like drawing space backgrounds, and that's probably one of the things I'm better at, so let's just put that in. There wasn't one specific contrasting color that I could make the background because this character has so many different colors to it, so I just went with a semi-vibrant, semi-faded blue background that it tweaks up a little bit near the ending, and then just do some of my usual stuff, a bit of cloud and fog, and I really like how it turns out. I think it accents the character well, and well, let's take a look at how the PopCross Community Megazord thing turned out. Now, I'm very curious what everyone thinks of this community redraw versus other ones, because this is obviously super different from past episodes, but personally, this is one of my favorite things we've done as a community so far. It's so cool seeing so many people's art brought together into one big awesome thing. So in spirit of that, the next community redraw theme for September 2020 is going to be fusions. I'm going to be taking your characters and fusing them with someone else's in the community. But there are extra rules added on top of this, so pay attention. For one, you have to draw the character in 3 different poses to submit them. I want to see what this character looks like from a few different angles and poses, and get some character across in the poses that you choose. 2, you have to use 1 color to design this character. You can use black and white and gray, those are all fine, but you have to include 1 color. No more, no less. There is a reason for this, but I'll get into it when we actually get to the community redraw. But anyway, everybody, thanks so much to everyone who's submitted. Again, so much cool stuff. I say it all the time, but you all really went above and beyond this time. And of course, if you want another episode kinda like this, a few weeks back I did a bonus episode where I took a ton of Mortal Kombat characters and fused them together in a sort of similar way. That was a fun episode for sure. And of course, I've got lots of other robot and mech and Transformers stuff on the channel. Justice League is Transformers, and I'm really getting into drawing robots right now. Just cutting away to the future, because while I was editing, I remembered that an episode of Art Friends that I'm on comes out the day that this video comes out. I've been on an episode of Art Friends before, I'll link it in the pinned comment or something. It's a great show, we talk about Smogist and designing creatures and all that kind of stuff. Go check it out, it's lots of fun. Okay, back to whatever I was saying. But anyway, everybody, that's all for today. I'm Christian Pearson. This has been PopCross Studios, home of the nerdiest art videos on YouTube. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.